So welcome back, everybody. Pretty exciting episode here. This is going to be my first official milling job. Now, while we've done some playing around on the mill, familiarizing ourselves with it, we're milling quite a bit of lumber today for a brand new barn addition that we're building on the backside of the chop shop. So it just so happens I need a bunch of standard dimension 2x6s, 1.5 inch wide, about 5 1/4, 5.5 inches long. So if you've seen one of the last episodes, we just went over to our river property, cut down a big yellow pine, and we're gonna mill some lumber out of that, as well as we're gonna try to get all the lumber we can out of these small trees that we dug up here around the shop. Now I am gonna be putting this lumber up green. We're gonna rack it for a few days till I get back from a trip. By the time you are watching this, we're already back home. Then we're gonna start slapping it up. I am perfectly fine with putting up green lumber for an outdoor barn build like this. If it was something critical or an inside structure or a home, we would absolutely use kiln dried lumber. All right, so you're getting an official sneak peek here. I've already got post and truss up. As you can see, I'm going with the standard style metal trusses that I've been using, and they have buckets in them. Well, those buckets are about 1 5/8 of an inch to about 1.5 inches. So we have to keep the lumber within that range in order to fit in there. All these trusses are 12 foot apart, but we have to have 14-foot lumber to hang over the end for our eaves. So all the lumber I've done cut is either 12 foot 6 inches or 14 foot 6 inches, and then we'll trim it up right before we stick it up. So that's what today's video is all about. All right, let's fire up the old TMG Industrial 30-inch sawmill that I just got. Again, I'm still learning, figuring all this out, and we're gonna see if we can get some usable 2x6s out of this little small pine. Why not? Otherwise it was going to the burn pile. Now you can see this is going to be low quality wood, huge rings, really fast growth. This tree was never planted for sawmill type lumber. It's typically used for pulpwood. Now I'm definitely a newbie to sawmilling, but I've seen enough to know we want to avoid the pith, or what I call the heart is what we've always referred to it as. But we're probably going to push our luck with it today and get as close as we can. Otherwise I would get one 2x6, you know, either here, 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 or here if I just really want to miss the heart. But if we play our cards just right, this is the small end, by the way. I know better than to base my lumber off the large end. We could get 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 with some bad edges and still leave some of the heart. We may be pushing it a bit close, but that's all right. We're still learning with all this. Let's see what we can make happen here. We could wind up with 2 2x6s, maybe up to 4. All right, so first ever framing cuts of lumber, and it went quite well. Now, yes, y'all can see that I did not skip the heart. So on this piece right here, I can clearly see it. I was only gonna get 3 out of it if I skip the center. And I'm really curious as to how that's gonna work out. Dry and green, putting it up the way that we're doing. You know, we're not framing in walls. I don't care if there's a little twist or something going on. And I kind of really want to see what's going to happen. We can clearly see which one's the center based on the heart right there, the pith. But I was able to get 4 14.5-foot 2x6s. That's pretty awesome. All right, so I cut this log 14.5 feet, but we've got a problem. We're going to have to do a tremendous amount of waste. I really shouldn't even be milling this log, y'all. It does this number, so we're gonna have to take a decent amount off this side, and we're gonna take a heck of a lot off this end just to get something usable. So we're gonna waste a lot of wood here. I really should be going after straighter logs, but I just don't have no more pines that I wanna take down right now, and that's the lumber choice for framing like this. So if I don't wind up getting all of the 14-foot lumber that I need, I gotta go dig through that pile, find a few more. I got plenty of 12-foot logs, but if I don't wind up getting enough, I only need 20, I can just run by the store real quick and pick up a couple of more of these. But the plan was to mill all the lumber that we possibly could. So you're about to see me take some serious slabs off of this, and it's gonna look like I'm wasting it, because I kind of am. But the good news is all my other logs over here are quite straight. All right, now for the cool part. I don't have to fight this big log if I don't want to. Man, I hate seeing all that slab I had to take off, but it is what it is. So the reason I don't have to fight this big log, hopefully y'all seen the episode where I installed the winch up here. So we're about to turn this with that. No more throwing my back out or fighting with it or anything like that. All we got to do is just throw a strap on this bad boy. And if we put the loop way underneath as we pull up with this winch, it'll just roll the log over. All right, watch this. Got bark going in behind this log stop. Doesn't get much easier than that, does it? I can always let back off. Now the cool thing is this winch holds this logs to the backstop too, while I come over here and get my dogs and clamp in. Whereas you see me fight with that little tree earlier, I'm trying to use a PV, hold the log, keep them rolling back, and adjust the dogs with one hand. Them days are over. This right here can take care of it for me. Actually need to let back off just a smidge. Oh man, it just doesn't get no easier than that. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. Oh my goodness, we've learned a lot today, but it has been almost 100% humidity all day long. It was actually 96% when I got up before daylight this morning, and I am drained. I bet I have drank 2 gallons of water, tons of salt and everything else I can get in my body. But I've learned a lot with all this right here. So we've got a pretty big stack of fresh cut 2x6s right here. Awesome. Very, very happy. This is my first ever framing lumber score. So I've put them on stickers. We're wrapping them up nice and tight because I'm about to be gone for a few days to a family wedding. But by the time y'all watch this, we've already been back home for a couple of days, and I just don't want them warping. I'm keeping them in the shade, but we're not trying to air dry these. I stuck stickers in there anyways. It is what it is. Now I'm actually several boards short, so I'm probably gonna go pick them up, because one thing I learned today is it is not worth your time to go after little trees, especially for 2x6s. You spend more time trying to trim them down. Only a couple of times I found out after lobbing off sides and getting down and going, oh, there's a hump in the middle that's not gonna allow me to get a 2x6, although each end looked good. I was basing it off of ends. Learned a lot today, wasted a pile of time too. That's okay, that's what I'm doing, learning. Even the big logs that I have, 2 of them had crooks and bends in it. I wasted a ton of wood there trying to cut the dips out. I'm only going after straight logs from here on out. I see the value in that, or relatively straight, almost perfectly straight logs. But overall, I'm getting it figured out. My kerf width cut, how to get dimensional lumber, made a few mistakes like not locking down my head, although I have found out I can lock just one side of the head and I'm getting really good cuts, but there was a couple times I ran off, didn't lock my head lift in, that, and wound up with a wavy board. Oops, my fault. But locking in one side, locking it up here, this is important too. This can drift just by rotating this. Perfect, it ran great. The other amazing thing I learned after making a bunch of cuts today, I didn't even have the tank full and I have not filled this up once. This Kohler is unbelievably fuel efficient. I'm blown away with that. The sawmill did fantastic. Very, very pleased. We seem to have everything set up correctly. No blade jumps, no problems. I think one thing I'm gonna add, I'm not crazy about this little twist knob to get the water flow going. I think I just want a 1/4 turn handle. I'll just go to the hardware store and get that, maybe even just put it in line somewhere. I got a bunch of 1x and 3/4 lumber down here too that we still have to trim off. So I'm gonna wind up with a bunch of 1x6s and 3/4x6s basically. And y'all, unbelievably blown away, impressed with my hoist right here. What an awesome addition. If any of y'all have a sawmill and you can add one of those overhead, the heck with working with a PV. This right here not only would have flipped these gigantic logs, but it holds them in place while you go work your dogs and do everything else instead of you having to lean against the log. This was a game changer for me and made today's job so much more enjoyable. Okay, if you're interested in the sawmill, they just put these on a huge sale. I'll put a link in the description. I'm talking like $1,200 off. These mills just went. Some of y'all have even emailed me and said, man, okay, now they're all of a sudden a good deal. I don't know if that sale's still running. Go check it out. All right, y'all, we are one step closer to framing in the barn out here, framing in the roof basically as soon as we get back from our trip. Again, by the time you are watching this, we're already back and I'm already out there putting up the purlins and hopefully getting 10 on the roof. We'll get you that video as soon as we can. I'm working solo, doing a lot of other stuff, doing this traveling. It's really eating into our video time, but we're gonna get you the content you're looking for.